Hi, this is Llyn Hunter, Llynhunter, storyboard artist, illustrator for animation. And today we're doing a little project with PIKA-chu. This is a what to draw, and we're going to turn a Pika into a PIKA-chu. What a Pika is, or a Pika. I've got a really cool book here. If you want to get a hold of a copy of a really good book on pikas, this is by Molly Woodward, photographs by Tom and Pat Leeson. It's by Heyday Publishers. They're really amazing. But this book itself is full of some of the best photographs. If you ever want, like, everything you've ever wanted to see, really great about a pika or a pika. This is a great place to do it. Get it. What a pika is, they're basically a lagomorph. It's a rabbit. By the name, the Latin name is Ochitona. I'm really bad with my Latin. Ochitona princeps. And it's actually a bunny rabbit with round ears that lives on rocks. We have them in the United States. I went up to the Sequoias just recently, Sequoia National Park, and I fell in love with them. I mean, I've always been in love with pikas, but once you see or a pika, once you see the real one, they are just amazing. They are amazing little critters. And what I want to do today, we're going to take this pika, which is basically, I paid $12 to iStock. So you can get, I'm trying to talk about copyright here too, because both, we're doing fan art that is turned into animal art. I'm using two references. I'm using PIKA-chu here, who was originally created by Atsuko Nishida and Ken Sugimori of the Pokemon Company. They're called the Pokemon Company. It's a combined company of three different basic companies that got together to create the Pokemon game. And because of that, basically, Atsuko Nishida was the original creator of this. This particular drawing, I'm doing really well today. It's a photograph, not a drawing. Sorry about that. But the photograph was done by Steve Lenz, and I'll give you his email address for his, I'm sorry, not email address, but his URL for his photography site. You can tell this is a pika that I shot. This was one of the pikas on the rocks that we got a photograph of when we were up in the Sequoias. And you can tell, I just had a basic camera and I was very far away. So you can't really see my pika very well, or my pika. But his pika, you know, he had a good camera, a good lens, and it took him a long time to take that photo, because to get those little boogers to sit still for any length of time, they like sit, stop, 1, 2, 3, and they are gone. So he had to work very hard to get that very nice photograph. So I paid $12 so that I could show you his photograph and give him credit, so that you go over and maybe use some of his photos or pay for some of his work. But anyways, we're going to take this little guy and basically do a combination of these two things to create a realistic looking PIKA-chu. And so basically I'm going to start by, we've got lots of round forms. The nice thing about PIKA-chu and the pika is that they are both really round. So you've got really round forms. And with this pika, when we're going to do the arched pose kind of thing. I'm going to use, make it look like a real pika, or basically somewhere between the PIKA-chu and a PIKA-chu. It's going to be a PIKA-chu. We're going to give him a little bit of an arched back. But the pikas live in the scree, or the fallen rock debris, way high up in the mountains. We were at 94,000 feet, I would say, up in the mountains of the Sierra Nevadas in Sequoia National Park in Pear Lake. And so if you go up to Pear Lake or you go up to Emerald Lake, in the Sequoia National Park. You can find these guys. They were running all over the rocks in the mornings. I was, my friend Lisa will tell you, I was going nutso because I actually got to see real life pikas or pikas in their natural habitat. And that was a really exciting thing for me. So right now I'm doing a combination of, the PIKA-chu has these really pointy ears, but he doesn't have any insides to his ears. And where the original artist, Atsuko Nishida, actually she based her PIKA-chu on a squirrel. And they just the art director made some small alterations to her design, Ken Sugimori, and he said, no, it's not a squirrel, it's a mouse. And the thing is that the actual pika is not a mouse or a squirrel. It's actually a rabbit. It is in, like I said, the Ochitona is a variation of the family that it's from. There are pikas in parts of Europe and Asia, and there's one that looks like a teddy bear in China that is kind of rare. But we're sticking to PIKA-chu's shape of his tail here. So you can tell I'm doing it real loosely right now in pencil. And I'm trying to keep like the head shape of our pika here. So it's going to be kind of it's more of it'll be a bit of a whimsical, not quite realistic look, but we're doing the pointy ears rather than the round ears of the pika. And we're going to give him more of like real toes. And I'm not sure, I'd have to look it up. The one thing I didn't look up this morning, my apologies, whether they have 4 toes on their back feet or 5. They have 4 toes on their front feet. And they have black pads on their toes. The pikas do. And they literally, when they're on the rocks, when I was there, they were going meep. You could hear these meeps. And you're going, okay, is that a bird or is that? And I realized after the fact on the scree, I was really hoping to see, we got to see marmots there too. So the marmots, they're big. They look like beavers with fluffy tails is the best way to describe a marmot. They're very, very big rodents. They are rodents. And they look like beavers with fluffy tails. And they live in a colony right next to the pikas. Okay, so we've got this kind of pose with our semi-realistic looking. We've used the head of this pika, and they've got these wonderful, I also know that they've got these roundy toes. It's kind of fun to watch them because they have fur everywhere except on their paw pads, on these little toe pads of theirs, because they run all over the rocks. Their toe pads are actually really grippy on the rocks. Okay, so we've got PIKA-chu's lightning type tail here. And I've got that roundy, like I said, with PIKA-chu and also the pika, they'll have a stomach here and a neck here and back. And I'm doing more of the PIKA-chu proportions than the pika's proportions. But we're giving him more of the rodentia type heel. But PIKA-chu's got that too. So it's like this particular PIKA-chu, as it were, is kind of a cross between the pika and the pika. And I'm going to have, let's see here. Let's have him jumping between rocks. I'll put a rock here and a rock here. For the heck of it. We'll give him a bit of a composition here. Okay. Now, I'm going to go in. That particular drawing's done. I'm going to go in with a Micron pen. This is your standard, put it in the right direction. This is a Sakura Pigma Micron pen. I like these a lot because they're a good alternate to rapidograph pens. They have permanent ink in them, and you can paint over them, and they keep their permanent quality. I'll put a little dot there. We're going to give him pupils in his eyes. So we've got a reflection in the eye. I'm going to try the 3. This is a little bit thick. This is a 0.5. This is a 0.3. And I'm going to try the 0.3 because I think that's a little bit, I want to make this look more furry. Now, to give him more of a realistic animal look, I'm doing hatching. What's known as hatching, when you do just quick stroke-like lines, it's known as hatching. And when you cross them in 2 different directions, it will be more so. So we're giving him the stereotypical ears of PIKA-chu. We want to give him the more pointy ears rather than the round ears of the pika. So I'm going to give him those kinds of ears. There we go. Now, again, I was talking about copyright. PIKA-chu is, it's from a video game and from the card game Pokemon. And basically, it started out, the game itself, I believe, started out as a card game. Kind of like they use some of the rules like of Magic the Gathering type. And it started out around 1990, I would say 97, 98. And so we're gonna give, let's throw a, they do have like strong incisors, like bunny rabbits have. Like I said, rabbits and rodentia are closely related, but they are not, they are actually in different genera. And the pika, actually, the Ochitona were in existence before the rabbits were. And I can't remember I didn't pull out the Latin name for rabbits and bunnies. Even though they're closely related, the bunnies came after these guys did. And it was primarily because the types of plants that these guys eat are primarily found in the mountains and in forests, where bunnies eat more grasses. So it's like if you go to a golf course in Arizona at 5 o'clock in the morning, you will see herds of jackrabbits. They eat the golf courses in Arizona. And I know this because I'm from Arizona originally. And I'd go running out 5 in the morning near a golf course, and you'd see rabbits everywhere. Okay. There. So we're getting our freeness down. And these guys too, they have little claws and big black pads in their toes. So this is our, now PIKA-chu has got his his electric cheeks. So we'll make sure that we have nice little big cheeks on our PIKA-chu. And okay. And I'm going to pull out, I'm going to finish up with the again, I'm doing like hatching to give more of a furry look to our tail here. I'm going to pull out the 5 again. Okay. This is again the 0.5. Just to give, I want to give a heavier outline. Yeah, there we go. I wasn't sure which one was going to be. It's like the 0.3 is a little delicate, and I wanted to give a more. Let's give a heavier outline to him. And we'll, like I said, with the hatching. Okay, so now I'm going to hatch. So I'm doing parallel lines, one line next to another, and giving them a little bit of a flow so that it feels more like fur. Because Pikachu, being an animated character, you want just a big heavy outline so that the when you animate from frame to frame to frame, it's a lot easier if you just have something with a heavy outline and a single color like that for animation, because you can animate, you don't have so many lines that have to go from frame to frame to frame. It will look jiggly. And I'm sure you've seen some kinds of animation that are more detailed and more like with watercolor and are more experimental types of animation or more art-based animation. Will sometimes do that, and you'll find that there's this like jiggly effect because they are using watercolor, they are using oil-based like pastels, and because of that, it will jiggle like that. Okay, now Pikachu has like this dark line there, so we're going to indicate that, and then I'm going to make we're going to have some rocks, so he looks like he's jumping from rock to rock. Right there. And put a few extra lines here to give some. This is just giving some volume. When you take a line and you draw it around an object, like this is going to be a rock, if I keep the lines going around or feeling like they're following the shape of the thing that I'm drawing, it'll give you a feeling of volume. Okay, so there's our initial Pikachu, or PIKA-chu. And now I'm going to take, this is a Kneaded Eraser. It's one of my favorite tools. I've talked about this a lot in a lot of my videos. It's made up of, you can see it started out as a square. It's like silly putty. And it's made up of basically rubber that has air whipped into it, and it makes a great eraser. And you clean it by what I'm doing, like with silly putty. That's how you clean it. And it takes away the pencil. Okay, the pencil line will come away immediately because the pencil is just, it's clay and graphite, and the Kneaded Eraser will erase it away. And you can tell too, I had some more definite lines out here. I'll come back in after we paint it and put some more lines in there to give some more definition to the piece. Notice this Pika too. He has got, with the photograph that Steve Lenses took, see how those beautiful, he really caught all the little vibrissi, are what is the technical term for whiskers. He's got marvelous little whiskers, and he's got little dots on his face. And I'll probably add a little bit of that too when I'm done. So now let's go, and I've got my watercolor here, and I'm going to use, this is like a lemony yellow. It's got some green left in it because I was doing lots of trees. So I'm going to pull out some more. And my watercolor kit, this is my traveling kit, and I was doing lots of trees lately. You're always going to get a little bit dirty because you're mixing colors. But what happens is then your colors won't look as saturated, but they'll look more natural. Okay, so you can see I'm putting a little yellow-orange in there, and I'm putting a little yellow together, and we're going to start with that color all over our Pika-chu here. And again, I've got this taped down. This is Fabriano hot press watercolor paper that I've cut a 4x6 sheet of, and I've taped it down to glass with Scotch tape. And I, you know, let's talk brand names. You want magic tape. You want a cellophane tape, or not a cellophane tape. You want Scotch magic tape if you're going to be using it to tape watercolor paper down, because watercolor paper will buckle up, and there's just enough strength in Scotch tape to keep the paper from pulling up, but it has it's tacky, or I should say that the glue is such that when you pull it off your paper very carefully, I mean, it will rip if you're not careful, but if you're careful about pulling off your tape, it won't rip the paper. It'll come off the paper. So that's why I like to use Scotch tape. The traditional way of taping down watercolor paper is with this brown paper tape that you wet and you put it down first. Ever since I started using real watercolor paper, and by real I mean expensive stuff, it just is a mess. And I did this a long time ago. I often use the back of a canvas board, and it works really, really well. Masking tape does not work as well as Scotch tape for really holding down the paper. And like I said, if you're careful, it will come off the paper very nicely, and it gives you a nice clean edge, and that's why I like Scotch Magic tape. Okay, so we got our base color down there, and while I'm letting this area dry, I use black, mind you. When people use watercolor, a lot of times they will not use black. I will use black. I don't have any problem with using black, and I'm using a little brown in here to turn my black a little warmer. The stones are basically the stones that I'm putting around him here are gray. Okay, so I could have mixed up my gray by just using primary colors and getting a black or natural black, and it's easier just to use black. The black I'm using is not opaque. It's a transparent black, and so you can get it darker and darker and darker and darker if you like. But I am not a big one for, if I'm using watercolor, I'll use whatever color. I mean, black is a real color in life. I don't understand, it's like, the purists in watercolors have to mix their own black. Well, when they mix their own black, they're still getting black. It's basically all the colors mixed in there. Okay, now I want PIKA-chu to get some volume. So I'm going to use a little bit, in the PIKA-chu, he's got blues and blacks in him. And Pika's they used gray down there. So I'm going to use a little bit of a brown. And I want to give him some volume, so we need to put in some shadow on him. And I'm giving him strokes like he's got fur, so that he feels more like an animal rather than an animated character. And if I really wanted to render him out, it would take a little bit longer if I wanted to get all the furry-like looking strokes. But as it is, I'm using a Windsor Newton Series 7 brush. I'm a big one they're expensive as heck. Go buy them from Blick or Joe's or one of the discounted art supply stores online. If you buy them at your local supply store, you are supporting your neighborhood store. But here's the thing, they're expensive. They usually run about, the brush that I'm using right now is a number 2, and it'll run about $40. And I don't know about you, but for me, that's a lot of money. So I usually buy my art supplies from Blick, and I can usually get a brush like this for around $20, which is still a lot of money. But one of these brushes, if I'm using it just for watercolor, will last up to 10 years. If I'm using it for ink, maybe a year if you're lucky. That's ink. Okay. I'm going to throw a little bit of, this is a more of a phthalo blue. Ultramarine. Phthalo blue is a green blue, and ultramarine and cobalt are more red blues. They have a varying degree of, ultramarine's more of a, leans more to the yellow side, and cobalt more to the red. Or is it the other way around? As I'm doing this. So it's like this is a little bit of a green that we're adding to his shadow. It'll give a nice accent. When you start mixing colors on watercolor, they give a nice accent to them. And I'm gonna color in his eye because That stark eye is driving me a bit nuts. And I'm going to do that eye a bit brown because most animal eyes are a little red-brown. Okay? And then I'm going to throw a blue-black into his ear up here. That's black mixed with just a little bit of blue in it. So it goes a little bit darker. Okay. And then let's do his cheeks. This is a good old cadmium medium red. And once you start playing with color, you'll get to know what the names of the different colors are. Okay, that's a little bit heavy. So I'm going to pull some of this up. Okay, what I did was I took all the water out of my brush tip. You wipe it on a paper towel. Okay, I'm cleaning my brush. I put water in it, wipe it on the paper towel. That takes all the pigment out of it, you can see. And then now the brush is more or less dry. And I'm wetting it up a little bit. Clean all the water out of the brush so it's a dry brush. And you wipe it around and you see it pulls up the pigment like it was a sponge. And those are the things that when you start playing with watercolor, you start learning about this. These are what the brush will do and not do. Okay, and now we want to put a little bit of pink. This is an alizarin crimson. This is a pinky red. It's not a great pinky red, but it's good enough to get the pink that you need. But alizarin crimson, these are old colors. This is a basic watercolor palette. The palette I'm using right now is a Cotman traveling palette. I have one of these that is 40 years old that's still, actually I sometimes use it when I'm doing my demonstrations because it's even smaller than this one. And you can also use tins that are divided up and they'll, basically you can just put liquid tube watercolor on dots in them and they'll work well too. There we go. And now he's got a black nose. PIKA-chu's got a slice of a nose, but this little guy's got a black nose, so we'll give him a little black nose. And then he's got, because we're doing a PIKA-chu, let's make sure that we give our PIKA-chu black paw pads. So we know he's a PIKA-chu rather than a Pikachu. But you could say he's a Pika. Pika, Pika? It's a Pika. Pika, Pika, Pika. I'll drive people nuts with that. Like I said, I drove my friend Lisa bonkers for a couple of days after I saw these guys in real life for the first time. It's a Pika! It's Pikachu in real life! Except without a tail. And they were great too. You can see in this picture here, he's just changing from his summer coat to his winter coat. They were just amazing. They were just amazing. Now, we want to put a little bit of a background in here. And the way I like to put in backgrounds, watercolors will fox for you and what have you, but what I like to do is I will scumble a nice little background in here. And I usually will mix blues and pinks. Sometimes I'll put a purple background in there or gray background just to get something behind my character. And this is a nice way to give, like I said, you got a little bit of extra dimension and a little bit of extra. Whenever you put texture, extra dots, like in watercolor or a drawing, it gives interest. It adds interest. So we've got, blue sky, but isn't blue sky more fun if it's modeled or it's got clouds in it, or it doesn't have to be a perfect area of blue. And then that way too, you don't have to worry about laying down that perfect, if you've ever tried to play with watercolor and you're laying down a watercolor wash, you don't have to pull that perfect area of color in there. And just double it around, and that way. Let's see, I'm gonna pull this back into shot a little bit so you can see the pika. the picture that Steve Lenz did was just so lovely. It's just the perfect pica picture. And that's the problem with too, when you go online and you're getting reference material for stuff, you can get all kinds of photographs that you're referencing. If you're doing a piece that is just for reference, where you're not showing the photograph, I mean, the sad thing is that photographer is not making money off of that. That person took hours and hours and hours to get that image so that you could use it for whatever painting you can. So if you've got the opportunity and you have used somebody's reference photos, give them credit. You know, it's like they need to make money too. I'm not making any money off of this. This is purely for educational and me wanting to put up videos and hopefully giving you an opportunity to learn how to do watercolors and play and try something new and different. There. And I think we're just about done here. Now, I would like to let this dry. And what I will do is I will go over and I really will sharpen up. See, we've got some line work that, this foot is a little bit, it's not wonky, it's artistic. You could say it's going back in scenes, so it doesn't have to be detailed. I could leave it just like this, but I think I'll probably go back in and clean it up just a little more, just for my own stupid desires. But here we've got Steve Lenz and my photograph of a pika, or pika, and we have PIKA-chu, and we have come up with a PIKA-chu. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something for it, and then try your own PIKA-chu. Go for, find another animated character that you want to do something out of. Another thing you might want to do, check out RJ Palmer. He has done hundreds of Pokemon monsters in a realistic style. I'll put his website down below as well, so you can check him out and see what he's done by making his realistic Pokemons. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really appreciate your time. Please like, subscribe, and maybe join my Patreon. It's only $12 a year if you want to donate to my fund, and you can also join it for free. Most of the posts that I put there are available to see 3 days after I post them, and I post a lot of JPEGs for you to download, and it's going to be going places in the next year here. I'm going to be doing a lot more. So thanks again for stopping by. Llyn Hunter, LLYNHUNTER, 2 L's on the Llyn and 1 N. Have a great day. And again, thank you for your time. Bye-bye.